The Verdict is a live broadcast, and the opinions expressed by the host, guests, and callers are not necessarily those of this station. The references to legal matters are based on actual cases filed in federal and state courts and are matters of public record. Every legal situation is different, and none of the information or views provided during the taping of The Verdict are meant to be legal advice. For more information about The Verdict, please visit us at www.theverdicttv.com. Hello, and welcome to The Verdict, a show where lawyers take you behind the scenes as they prosecute the most action-packed legal cases around South Florida and New York. The Verdict is all about powerful insight and analysis about how to put the law on your side. If you want to call in, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, let's get down to justice. Here comes The Verdict with your hosts, Jay Farrow and Janine Davis.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Verdict. I'm your host, Jay Farrow.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Janine Davis, and it is Friday, March 27th. And yes, thank you. We welcome you to an edition of The Verdict TV, and we would like to welcome people who would like to call into the show. They can do so at 888-565-1470. So, Jay, let's talk about the verdict, the law, and the coronavirus. Where would you like to start?
A lot to talk about this week, Janine, and it's nice to see you in person. We had a show right before this, and as you were sharing, it's been a couple weeks since we've been in the same room together, which is really unusual. And we are certainly in extraordinary times, unprecedented times, and we hold this space here at The Verdict to discuss the ongoings with the coronavirus. How has it affected the law on the ground level? How are courts been affected, federal and state courts, and how can we support lawyers, clients, and even the judiciary with some ideas of how to move things forward and get cases unstuck? Also want to be a space to talk about the fact that justice has not stopped because of the coronavirus. Life is going on, and to the credit of many of my colleagues in my cases, we have worked together over the course of the last couple of weeks, and in some instances, as a matter of fact, we have worked through some very difficult issues to get some cases resolved that I am very proud to say took a lot of work and a lot of soul-searching on behalf of all involved. And that's really where I've seen some really good stuff out there, Janine. I've seen some people take advantage of the situation, to be honest with you. And we talked about that a little bit last week, and we can talk a little bit more about it this week.
Yes. But so on that point, and pardon me, Jay, I would like to say that, and I think that people will experience this. We discussed it a little bit on our previous show, but we are going to see the best of humanity during these times, and we're going to see the worst of humanity. People who already are on a different moral spectrum will take this time to sort of really take advantage of people and do ill deeds, because that's what they do, and they think that they will get away with it because there's a very severe crisis going on.
And as a litigation attorney, I wanted to hold this space, and I know that we had talked about some weeks ago when we relaunched the show. You know, this was going to be a space to interrupt the practice of law to the extent that that things aren't working. In a lot of instances, cases are taking way too long, and how can we create urgency in the law, be really client-based when we're moving cases forward, and then this thing hits, and then all of a sudden we lose the common denominator in all court cases, and that is the judiciary. I mean, that means going to court. Now,
right.
A lot of people this week have had a lot of questions from clients and others of what exactly is going on with litigation. Well, the good news is most courts are open to have telephonic hearings. All courts are open for electronic filing, which means that lawsuits can be filed as in normal course. Summonses can be issued by the court in most circumstances, which means that if a case is filed, I can get process out and served. Clients say, what is the initiation process of a lawsuit? Was the filing of the complaint in court, the issuance of a summons by the clerk, and then having a licensed process server go out to someone's door. Now, that's where we're finding some challenges, depending on which part of the state forward that we're working with. Some process servers are saying yes. Some process servers are saying no. It's really on a case-by-case basis. But the fundamental starting of a lawsuit is not stopping, and what we have done, at least at my firm, is that we're inviting people that we've just filed lawsuits against to accept service by process with a waiver of actual service and just have it by email. So that limits the spread of the virus or the person-to-person contact, and I think that's something at least that we can do on our end is to offer someone a service. And a lot of times, even when that happens, Janine, what we've been doing is offering them an additional 10 days to file a response to the complaint. And if they're willing to work with us, certainly we're willing to work with them. And that's really the attitude that we've taken is to be mindful and compassionate, even to the people that are on the other side, that we're all in this together. And I think that concept can go a long way to even getting a case resolved sooner rather than later. But courts are open, and some judges are holding the larger hearings. Some courts are not. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. But fundamentally, the law has not stopped. And I said this to a colleague the other day, we're all sitting at home. All of us lawyers are sitting at home doing the same thing. We're working remotely, which means that we're paying more attention, I think, to some of the cases than we have in the past, which is excellent news for clients. I said, there's a lot of talk about today. But to your point, though, there's a lot of people being schmucks out there. Okay, and there's businesses looking to take advantage of old people. I've heard of some stories of people saying that to elderly that will go out and shop for your groceries. Give me your ATM number. That type of stuff. I mean, that's. Unfortunately,
yes. Unfortunately, that sort of darker element will be on the prowl. So we suggest to people, right, Jay, to be vigilant. Guard yourself from things that seem. If your gut tells you that perhaps you shouldn't be giving your credit card number to a certain person, or whatever the case may be, right? If they're offering you services and things like that, go with it. There are legitimate businesses that are out there that can be of service to you, and sometimes it's more judicious to spend an extra $5 or $10 to shop via a reputable company versus somebody who could abscond with your credit card information or anything of that sort. So I think it's important to sort of be vigilant, not paranoid because that diminishes the quality of your life, but be vigilant and know that the law is still working. And if you get into a jam, please reach out to attorneys. Our offices are functioning.
The offices are out there functioning, and I know all the lawyers out there, my colleagues, people even on the other side of my lawsuits, they're working their tail off. They really are. And I have to give credit where credit's due, is that we're actually having conversations, at least this is from personal experience, in cases that lack that day-to-day touch. And I think that when that happens, when lawyers are talking, there's a possibility for a resolution of all the matters that are out there. Now, I'm a big proponent of mediations. And we had a mediation earlier this month with two very large financial institutions, and we got the case settled. Again, people worked hard. They thought outside the box and were able to get things done. It was a little bit unusual to have a remote mediation. It's the first time I've done something like that.
I can imagine.
I've done remote mediations in employment cases with the Florida Commission of Human Relations, and this was the first time I've had one, which was actually it was actually a case that was not actually filed. It was a pre-suit mediation, and it was successful. Mediation. It was awkward because the parties weren't in the same room, and the mediator didn't have the same ability to have that person-to-person touch and look somebody in the eye and say, this is what I feel about this case. But this was telephonic, mind you. So I have not tried a mediation on a Zoom call or Skype, but I think that would be something that would be functional and certainly something that would support, getting things done. I'm a big proponent of pre-suit work. I mean, most of the cases I get don't get filed.
Right.
You send things out.
But talk to people about that, because most people in the law, Jay, believe that you've got to sue someone in order to get anywhere. And sometimes, listen, that is the case. We end up filing some of our cases. But perhaps it would be a benefit to people to understand what, and we can talk about this on the other side of the break, in fact, but I think it could be of service to people. Maybe somebody listening out there is not aware of all of the different tools available for what is known as pre-suit litigation.
And let's take a break, and on the other side of the break, we'll talk about just that, about what we can do before lawsuits even filed. In this context, it'd be a great thing to talk about. I mean, what's available to clients and to lawyers that they might not be even aware of, or the tools that can be used. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll start with that on the other side of this break.
Okay, join us on the other side of the break.
There is nothing business about getting defrauded. It is always personal. Did you know that there are special laws that allow victims of personal and business crime the ability to prosecute and collect money damages in court? These laws can triple the amount of damages you may be entitled to. Farrell Law Firm is a boutique firm that prosecutes business crimes in civil courts. At Farrell Law Firm, we support people to stand up to the bullies using unorthodox methods of legal practice, which focuses on urgency and the relentless obsession for justice. If you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give us a call today for a free confidential consultation. Farrell Law Firm, 954-252-9818. Again, if you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give Farrell Law Firm a call at 954-252-9818.
You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrell and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Welcome, everybody, back to The Verdict.
Back, everyone.
And, before we took the break, I'm your host, Jay Farrell. And here
and I am Janine Davis. Welcome, everyone, if you're just joining us.
And we're, out of our usual studio this week, obviously, as we're social distancing, and we're just discussing the fact that the law hasn't stopped. I mean, and there are ways that clients and people can accomplish justice, even though the courts are technically closed. And one of the things that we're very big on in my firm is a pre-suit demand, basically doing an investigation. And we work with former federal prosecutors, former CIA, police officers. I mean, one of our niches is work having to do with civil remedies for criminal practices. And we're very effective in our pre-suit investigations. A lot of the stuff that we need to find is online, or that these investigators are able to support us with. And so by the time we're actually serving somebody with a pre-suit demand, we've really done our homework. And a pre-suit demand is I prepare the lawsuit that would otherwise be filed. I submit a demand letter to the individuals that are involved. I also submit what's called a preservation of evidence demand, which means that if a lawsuit's about to be filed...
I don't want to interrupt you, but you said something really that I think is different than what other attorneys do and what most people are familiar with. So most people are familiar with an attorney paying an X sum of money to an attorney to write a letter for them, right? It's known either as a demand letter or a cease and desist letter or some kind of letter, right? But this is not what we do at Farrell Law Firm. You actually draft a full-fledged complaint that is backed by these investigations that you're talking about. So people get three things when they're served in pre-suit, right? They get the letter, the demand letter, the complaint, and then the preservation of evidence.
We're in business. there's a letter for demanding evidence, and it basically states that if a lawsuit is about to be filed, you're required to hang on to electronic data and all kinds of things. That you can't just start destroying things. And yeah, no, we haven't surged upon people with like, this is where we're going with things. And a lot of times, we have our investigations turn up to other people that were involved, or they were the recipient of money that went through a fraudulent scheme, and so other people get to be included in lawsuits that not necessarily did anything wrong, but they're there because of fraudulent transfer. But I'm talking about the pre-suit because I think that given the advancements in technology and information gathering, that it's not like we necessarily need to go through all of the formal discovery of a lawsuit. A lot of times I have from soup to nuts, usually from my clients who's kept data from their former employer or from their former partner. They've kept and held on to information such that I can generally take what they have but for maybe a couple of pieces I'd like to have, take it to trial, almost within a very short amount of time. So if I invite the other side into the conversation of, I know, and today I've been practicing law for 17 years in Florida. If I know that it's going to take 3 to 5 years to work something through in the normal course of things, and yet I have mostly everything that I need, why wouldn't I invite you to the conversation of resolution right away? And get to a place where, my client is made whole or as close to that as possible, and we all move on with life. It's called getting in and on with life, because the amount of nonsense that goes on in litigation with the gamesmanship and everything else. My stuff's heavy-handed, but I do that in service to my clients, but also to the other side, because I feel that my contribution to the sides of litigation is offering time back that they will never see, but yet I know I'm giving to them. If they can get to a resolution right away, and especially if you're talking about this context of where we're at right now in this coronavirus, it's like everybody's sitting in front of a computer. I mean, I don't need much more than my computer to be able to draft a complaint, do my research, connect to the people I need to connect with, and with all of those tools, I can seek to resolve something right away. Now, if I need to file something, like I said, the courts are open. I can electronically file anything. I can electronically file a federal complaint, a state court complaint, and start working the process of getting a case resolved. Now, right. I'll tell you this. One of the things I've noticed in the last couple of weeks is that, like you said, there's some bad things that are going on out there. Some lawyers are starting to pull this stuff, especially in what I do, because I'm the guy telling the bad guy or the bad guys, I got your number. And so on the flip side of that, what I get is I become the target because, I'm the blame for your woes. Yeah, I'm not. But I get that all the time. Now, usually, and I'm used to it, I get, we get threats all the time for sanctions and this, that, and other thing. But rarely does it go further than that.
Okay, so
because
speaking to that, sanctions, for people to understand, basically sanctions can come in a number of ways to an attorney. So could you tell people a little bit about what you experienced, like what sanction means and also what it looks like to you?
Well, there's a conversation over the course of time that some lawyers would file matters without thinking things through. That there was cases that were filed that had absolutely no merit to them. And there was always some form of punishment, call it punishment, in the form of monetary punishment.
So that's what you mean by sanctions, right? So for people to understand.
So basically saying that if someone files something that has no merit, for instance, I'll give you a clear example, and this is. Let's say that I file a lawsuit, and before I filed the lawsuit, I was required to do something. In some negligence claims, for instance, there's a requirement that a pre-suit demand go out. In some claims like defamation, there's a requirement that a retraction letter go out. In a civil theft, for instance, there's a requirement that a notice go out and give the other side 30 days to pay what's otherwise owed. If there's a dishonored check, So I'm giving you like a number of examples. But if I filed a lawsuit and I don't comply with one of these preconditioned statutes, then the case is frivolous. And then the court can go back and say, okay, I'm going to award money as a form of punishment to the other side. But here's the thing. In sanctions, it can go against the lawyer directly. And so this has now been taken down a road where it's used way too often. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's almost commonplace in certain practices to send out the 5705 notice because it does one thing. It attempts to chill the lawyer from taking on the case. They will have, like, in other words, the lawyers become, and if you're looking at the mafia, right, they become the guys on the street that actually take the people out. They shoot them, you know? So the lawyers become the people that actually would have a lawyer quit a case. When the lawyer quits a case, that's similar to killing a case in a lot of instances. So, you know, there's some lawyers that have to do this by pattern and practice. So you got to get some thick skin if you're in this business. But in some of the instances that are right now, like what I see is going on is that some lawyers are taking advantage of this to the extent where they're trying to chill the action. And there's actually a statute out there in Florida, as a matter of fact. It's called the SLAPP Act, or anti-SLAPP. It basically says that if a lawyer or somebody files a lawsuit against another person or threatens sanctions or otherwise for an improper purpose, then that person is going to be in a lot of trouble, so to speak. You know, so there's lawyers out there right now that are taking advantage of this coronavirus and basically beating up and bullying like other people. And it's worse, I think, now because a lot of lawyers are at home. A lot of lawyers don't have the camaraderie of their legal partners or their associate attorneys or someone to talk to. And a lot of people are going out of their minds, mind you, and don't know, you know, what's coming next for their law firm. So when a lawyer in this context is using this space, meaning what's going on with the corona crisis, to start sending out things, and I've seen it, I think that lawyers are going to be in a lot of trouble. I think that there's going to be no tolerance from the judiciary for shenanigans, especially when it comes to like turning over discovery or filing sanctions against the lawyer or threats, because we're all in an unprecedented spot, and there's no reason why justice can't continue. And there's no excuse to start bullying tactics. You know, I'm used to it, but I'm in the type of law that does get used to it. But a lot of people aren't. And so, you know, my concern is that, you know, this might go unchecked. But the reason why I want to bring it on the show is to be a space to say, hey, if I'm the only lawyer, I'm not the only lawyer getting these threats. I'm not the only lawyer, you know, being sued. I'm not the only lawyer with the threat of sanctions. And if it's happening right now, and there are means to correct it, okay? Because the lawyer, in some instances, becomes part of the case, the other case. And
correct. So tell us a little bit more about what you may have experienced today that has us a little bit passionate about this particular topic. I think we're passionate all the time about it because we really do see that it's a misuse of a tool that is actually meant to clean up the legal system and to keep everybody honest and to do away with frivolous lawsuits. It's now being used overused in a way that really.
I'm not saying everybody does it. Yeah, there was a guy that I think crossed the line today that I've not seen before. And it makes me passionate because I know that I'm not the only lawyer receiving these types of things. I've never seen it in the iteration that I've gone in today, but I just want to say that if you're out there, for the lawyers that are sitting on the side of the law where you're prosecuting a claim and you get one of these nonsensical motions for sanctions, and I just see them everywhere. All they're trying to do is to chill the effect, and there are means and ways. You can reach out to me on the show, and I have some legal memos on this and some case law that you might find very interesting. And I'm here to support you. You know, I just want to get the point across that even though it seems that the courts are going to be closed in the form that they were operating for and it might be a matter of months, it could be longer. That there's now conversations of having video hearings,
yes.
having video depositions proceed,
yes,
having things notarized over Zoom. So there's some really good people at work. I mean, I did see some emails I came across today about how some lawyers are taking it upon themselves to start some groups to go to each individual courthouse to support them in advocating for video conferencing. I don't know how that's going to work in federal court so much as it might in state court, because honestly, this whole crisis might be a little bit easier for the practitioner in federal court because there's not as many hearings. I'm not saying that's easier for any of us, but I think that just logistically, the federal courts might be a little bit slower in adopting the video conferencing or the video hearings. But I think everybody has the same thing. It's the same mindset. It's like, we're not closing things down. I mean, we are going to be at home, but we can operate this way. And there's a lot of cooperation out there. So I think that putting the public at ease that your lawsuit's not going to be lost. Your lawyer's actually going to be on top of it. As if anything else, I mean, I know that lawyers have stepped up, and we've shown up, and we've been made ourselves available. And I don't know too many that are out there that are not doing our part in this crisis to let people know that we look for that. Hey, you're here. You know, and if you need to talk to us, if you need some extra time, if you have some extra questions. Look, some clients are calling me about what just happened with this $2.2 trillion stimulus package. Like how or when are they going to get their checks? Or what does it mean for them when their employer is going to be required to pay them some leave time and the employer only has 5 employees? You know, there's questions out there. And mind you, the stimulus package just came out. I think it was just signed into law maybe a matter of minutes ago. So there's going to be some reviewing of that, and like anything else, there's going to be some time to get up to speed of what actually was said and what actually was meant. And this is part of the chaos, and it's bringing order to the chaos is what us lawyers are called upon to do. And hopefully we all do this in a responsible way, in a way that supports the clients and also helps us get to another level of practicing such that the court becomes a place of last resort, because I don't know any client that's ever been 100% satisfied with a court judicial proceedings.
Correct, which circles us back a little bit to the topic earlier of the value of the pre-suit litigation, the opportunity to create rapport with opposing counsel, and really using the tools of interpersonal tools and relationship to resolve things before it gets down the tracks. The full-blown litigation and perhaps a trial or something of that sort, correct?
Right. And it's also a tool to take out the litigation from us. There's a lot of things out there that I may have missed over the years that are available to get documents. I had also looked at the possibility of entering an agreement with my co-counsels or the counsel on the other side, as far as coming up with a trial order that gets a case moving independent of whether the judge is there or not. There are 1,000 out-of-the-box ways to start managing cases. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing right now and keep talking about this because it's no reason to give up. It's no reason, well, if the courts are closed, that doesn't mean that you can't push your case forward. I mean, the clients deserve it.
Right. So it's a good point. Courts are closed, the law is still ticking, and life is still going on. And people have a unique opportunity to have connection and rapport with not only the opposing counsel, but also their clients, as attorneys, and clients have access to their attorneys. I know in my function at the law firm, I spent an enormous amount of time this week on the telephone with clients. So certainly life keeps ticking on, and this is something that we get to be observant in and still holding people to a high standard of performance and not allowing... Right.
Yeah, let's take another break, and we'll circle back on this on the other side of this break.
Excellent.
There is nothing business about getting defrauded. It is always personal. Did you know that there are special laws that allow victims of personal and business crime the ability to prosecute and collect money damages in court? These laws can triple the amount of damages you may be entitled to. Farrow Law Firm is a boutique firm that prosecutes business crimes in civil courts. At Farrow Law Firm, we support people to stand up to the bullies using unorthodox methods of legal practice, which focuses on urgency and the relentless obsession for justice. If you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give us a call today for a free confidential consultation. Farrow Law Firm, 954-252-9818. Again, if you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give Farrow Law Firm a call at 954-252-9818.
You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrow and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Welcome back to The
Welcome back,
Verdict.
everybody.
The second week of quarantine, and we dedicated this show for the last couple of weeks, and certainly for the next, whatever it takes, to be the voice on the ground for the law here in South Florida and around the country. I invite you. Hey Terry, I see that you're writing in, and I wanted to thank you for your message you gave me the other day. I was going to get back to you this weekend. We have a unique opportunity here, Janine, to be the voice of what we're seeing and what we're experiencing now that courthouses have closed to the public. And what are our clients asking us? Because I'm sure other clients have the same questions. Are law firms still operating? Is my case going to go to obscurity? I can only imagine being a client right now. I mean, it's bad enough to be a client, plaintiff or defense side in a civil lawsuit and have not known what's going on. And then the thing is, especially on the plaintiff side, where it's always money, right? That's missing or that needs to be returned, or someone's been injured in an accident and they need to be compensated. So it's always like they're depending on us. Like, hey, if a partner stole a few $100,000, or someone stole commissions, or someone's playing games with there's 1,000 iterations, but it's money, right? So then people think when they file a lawsuit that, this money is coming right around the corner. If you talk to someone who's involved in a lawsuit, and they talk about what goes on with them, they know about the depositions coming up, like when the opponent is going to have to sit down and answer for themselves under oath. They know about a little piece of the discovery, but generally speaking, they don't know about deadlines. They maybe know when a big hearing is coming up. But now to turn everything off and saying, the judge just canceled their calendar for this period and we don't know. I can only imagine. I was in a few court calendar calls, which means that there's cases going to trial right before this happens. And a calendar call is when each judge has their assigned cases on a random basis, and there could be, let's say, 1,000 cases for each circuit court judge. I'm just estimating. I don't know the exact numbers. So when cases become ripe or ready, they get called to a trial calendar, which means that there could be 40 cases that are called that one day, and over the next 3 weeks, those 40 cases are going to be set for trial. Because some trials only take an hour. Some trials can take 4 days, and maybe not every case goes on it, but sometimes people have been waiting 3 years for this thing to go to trial.
Yes, to get,
and now all of a sudden they miss that calendar call, and some of the cases are no longer going to be set for trial because they've yet to figure out a way to have evidence and witnesses and everything else through all this. And so you're looking into September, October before anything is set for trial. And so now it's like, okay, the question is, what next? Well, you could have that conversation with your lawyer about, okay, well, where are we with a resolution to this thing? What can we do to maybe get to another mediation? This whole thing has created new conversations because we just don't know in this economic period of where the monies went. I mean, a lot of people have to check in with themselves, and this is plaintiffs included. It's like, okay, yesterday I know that the guy on the other side had plenty of money, guy or woman or corporation, and today I don't know where that sits because I think the money that the person had was in stocks, or I think that there was in bonds or in something else, and now it might not be there. So the question then becomes, what is the case value worth at that point? So the
so what I hear you saying that we can't pretend that this did not affect or will not affect the outcome pre-corona, the expected outcome pre-corona. I think that this is a really important point to sort of allow people to understand, not from a point of view of the sky is falling, but readjusting expectations. I think that it's an important conversation to have for people.
Well, the truth of the matter is maybe 1% to 3% of cases ever see the inside of a trial. Most cases settle or get dismissed. So by the time that you've gotten to trial, everybody's done a lot of work. They've done a lot of work to get there. And by the time you get to trial, more or less, you have all the evidence, you have your side of the case, and the other side has theirs. And as you get closer to trial, you have everybody weighing the chances of success at trial. So this is an opportunity for a reevaluation of pretrial resolution. But nothing has stopped other than the in-person hearings. So if people are creative and can look and take this opportunity to check things out that maybe they missed, they might even have the smoking gun in a box someplace and just overlooked it. Maybe it's a time to take a look at their case again. You never know. But it's certainly not time to be afraid. I think it calls for patience. It's certainly going to call for patience. But there are opportunities.
Perhaps readjustment of certain expectations, but not necessarily fear of something not being resolved.
Right. I mean, there's opportunities to make that phone call to another. Like, I'm just speaking lawyer to lawyer. I mean, I've started to write emails to some people this week that I haven't spoken to for a while. I've made some phone calls to some lawyers that I have not spoken to for a while. And actually, there was a couple of instances this week that we were able to get something resolved. No fuss, no muss. Like, hey, listen, we got all these issues. This could play itself out. So it was interesting because the conversation was like, I can do this, and then the other person was like, well, I can do this, and then I have this underneath, door number 2. He's like, well, I have this under door number 3, and then it was like, at some point you realize that you're just going down the tracks of that normal grind out litigation, and nobody wins in that except sometimes the bad guys. And if you can turn up the heat a little bit on the bad guys, so to speak, and you have a chance to get a case resolved. It's never a lack of resources. I mean, you're going through a circumstance. The circumstance should not dictate the result. And I think that comes from the lawyer's commitment to actually get something resolved. Now, the honest conversation is, how does this affect, on both sides, the course of the litigation? How does this affect the potential of success, the length of time something's going to take? What does this new uncertainty factor, and how could that be used by both sides to talk to their clients again? The other thing I wanted to get into and talk about is the questions that people have. And if you do have one, you can call us into the show right now. It's 888-565-1470.
Please do, because we know that people have questions.
Right,
and they have concerns. They have legal concerns. So please hit us up at 888-565-1470. We'd like to see if we can get some calls in after we take another quick and final break. But we're not guaranteeing that we have the answers, but we would certainly love to be of assistance if we can, and also perhaps direct you to someone who may have the answers for you. So we are here as a resource. We're also here to support people with questions or concerns that they may have. So please feel free to call us. Again, 888-565-1470, and we will see you on the other side of the break.
There is nothing business about getting defrauded. It is always personal. Did you know that there are special laws that allow victims of personal and business crime the ability to prosecute and collect money damages in court? These laws can triple the amount of damages you may be entitled to. Farrell Law Firm is a boutique firm that prosecutes business crimes in civil courts. At Farrell Law Firm, we support people to stand up to the bullies using unorthodox methods of legal practice, which focuses on urgency and the relentless obsession for justice. If you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give us a call today for a free confidential consultation. Farrell Law Firm, 954-252-9818. Again, if you have been the victim of a business, personal crime, or fraud, give Farrell Law Firm a call at 954-252-9818.
You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrell and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Welcome back. One more time.
Welcome back, everybody.
And I'm your host, Jay Farrell, and thank you for being with us. If you would like to reach us, you can reach us on Facebook at The Verdict TV, and you can reach us right now if you'd like to call in at 888-565-1470. We're talking about being on the ground floor of running a law firm, and in the era of social distancing where courthouses have closed. We're talking about how cases are moving forward, how to get cases from being stuck during this time period, and answering any questions that anybody has with respect to how justice is going to flow during this crisis. And I got to say, nothing's stopping. Life does go on. Thank God that everything's electronic nowadays, and thank God that everybody's hooked into email, and the courts are handling telephonic hearings, and we're moving forward with our cases. I've seen a lot of good come out of my conversations with my colleagues on both sides, my co-counsels, and I see some lawyers leveling up, elevating their practice, elevating our conversations, and I think that is where it all starts, right? For us to drop some of the nonsense that we would otherwise do on a daily basis, that we think that we have to as lawyers, and just become human beings. And from that space, look to create connections that resolve cases. Because if we can't depend on the courts being open and handling certain matters, what can we do? And I said it last week, and I'll say it again. I think that the judiciary is really going to appreciate lawyers working hard to getting things resolved. Not just the issues of trial, but the small issues in every single case. I mean, if I'm searching for discovery and I send it out, what can you do not to insert that frivolous objection? What can we do to resolve the discovery matters between us lawyers and get cases moving? Because listen, the sooner that we all have the information, the quicker we can decide, with our clients, how best to take the case. And I was sharing before, a lot of the work that I do is pre-suit, which means I have investigators or have, information you can find online is remarkable, and the databases that we have to search are remarkable. A lot of times I don't need much, and that gives me the ability to have an honest conversation with a client about what a case looks like. And I think a lot of other lawyers have that, and getting out of the mindset of the grind of court, of getting there and going to the judge. Once you take that away, listen, clients are going to ask for results one way or the other. There's, why is this case still dragging on? And don't tell me that there's this crisis that we're going through, because I know for sure that some other things are moving forward. I mean, life is moving forward. As a matter of fact, if you're just sitting there at your computer, you can get some stuff done. And how better way to get something done is just picking up the phone or sending an email saying, hey, let's try to work this thing out. I think it really is creating something special in the law, I think. I think it's going to create something special.
Right, so a part of what this show is about is the interruption and changing the conversation about how the practice of law can evolve. And we talk a lot about suggestions in order to do that. So we're also, in line with that, talking about taking this time of social distancing, leveraging technology, being present to our clients' needs, no matter what. And I think that that is also an opportunity to call on colleagues in the business and other professionals and people to really rally, to come together to give excellent results, even in the face of a pandemic, or really anything that comes down the pike, because we are capable of doing that and producing superior work and employing creativity and challenging the status quo.
Like I said, something special is happening, and it's asking for all of us in the legal community to be in service to what's going on right now. And I think the ones that are not getting the message that we're creating something special and doing something to hinder it, I think on the other side of it, or even doing it, is the judges aren't going to have any tolerance for bullying the other side or the other types of I don't want to call it gamesmanship, because there's a space for gamesmanship. There's a space for being zealous, but there's not a space for bullying. And I think that we will be as close as we possibly can to be. What I want to say is that the path has less hurdles in this context than you think. Because when we can't go to the court or the judge, we can't pick up the phone, and I think what's going to happen, some judges are going to send the message like, "Hey, you guys, you did what while I couldn't take a call? Right. You did what when the hearings weren't happening? Wait, in other words, he came to you with a request, you objected, and then he asked to work this out, and then you said what to this during this thing? So you basically took this time period, and instead of this, you just wanted to sit on it. Listen." The judges see everything, and the juries see it. They see right through the nonsense. And so I think that as that starts to happen, I think initially this might have a more of effect of people wanting to stall who do stall. But I think after a few messages are sent that that's not something that people are going to tolerate, that's going to clear itself up as well. I think it's a unique opportunity. I'm encouraged by it, and I see opportunities everywhere, especially for people who think that if they just got defrauded in all of this. I mean, there's a place to go. I mean, there's all of us lawyers will certainly take a call. We can answer questions. If you have questions about what just happened with the stimulus, I mean, I see on Facebook there's a ton of employment lawyers that are answering questions for free, and providing some guidance with what to do with employers. And what I like seeing is that not everybody's saying, "Oh, give me a call," and becoming part of the problem. I mean, you do see some lawyers that are filing some ridiculous lawsuits over toilet paper and the like, and that's going to happen.
It is going to happen. It's a very litigious, culture, and all of those things will take care of themselves. But I think the majority of what you're saying too is, and I've seen it as well, people actually really wanting to be in service to others especially as people are losing their jobs by the tens and hundreds of thousands. It's pretty astonishing what is going on now. And we're going to be on the pulse of all of this. If we see that we can bring any story or interpret it through the eyes of the law in order to be of service to people who are listening,
we're going to do that.
We're absolutely do that.
If people are writing it to us, or we see something on the ground level, that we see something that's obnoxious, we're going to call you out. I mean, this is our show, and we've decided to be in service to our community, who's looking to see that legal disputes can get resolved in a manner that's efficient, respectful,
Correct.
And integrity. And yes, it can be a little heavy-handed. I'll punch you in the nose and vice versa, and then we get something done. But guess what? We are here also for the voice of the people that don't have one. And I think that is, beyond anything else, the reason why we started the show is to see that there's 1,000 David versus Goliath stories that are hiding in the Broward clerk's office that no one, not CNN, is going to pick up. And it's like, hey, you know what? We're not, allowing the nonsense of bullying to continue from the big guy to the little guy. We're going to be that voice.
Exactly.
And if I see you, I'm going to call you out. And like this week, and like by next week, on the show next week, if you stay tuned, I'll be in a position to call you out. And you know who you are, because, you got into it today. Or you don't know that yet, but, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. So guess what?
Exactly.
We have this space,
and also we're here to educate and interpret the law and how it applies to people in the general public, right, Jay? So part of our mission on the Verdict TV show is also to educate. That's why sometimes you all will hear me asking Jay to sort of explain certain terminology or something, because we want to make the law accessible and easy to understand for people. The law applies to each and every single one of us in everything we do. If you've ever applied for a credit card, guess what? You signed a contract. That contract is part of the law. We often think that if you're not in active litigation, then it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with you in everything that you do. Right now, we're going into, we're in an election year, so the law applies to you as well. It's a civic duty, to exercise your right to vote. So we've got absentee balloting. There's so much richness that the law provides for the public.
We're willing to talk about it all right into the show. Check us out on Facebook. Let us know what you're thinking, what's on your mind, and we'll see if we can support you. And justice is. Someone said something to me the other day about the truth, and it's like the truth. You can't hide the truth. You can't hide the truth. That's why
the truth has legs. There's a saying that says the truth has legs. It will get out.
And truth and justice, they like to hang out together. And it's like the truth can never be hidden. It's always there. So
bye, everybody. Catch you next week.
We'll see you
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you for watching The Verdict. For more information about the show and your hosts, Jay Farrow and Janine Davis, please visit our website at www.theverdicttv.com or follow us on Facebook. The Verdict are live every Monday evening at 6 p.m. EST. See you next week.